Hello, welcome back to Deadfall. This is Enchanted, and today we'll be going through a particularly interesting level. A level with some very interesting gimmicks based on how the enemies in this game work.
We should be careful around here. From what I can decipher, the structure we just entered was designed to test whether we are worthy to enter Chivalva.
Let me guess. Traps?
Good guess.
So of course the first thing that happens here is a enemy gauntlet, so let's take care of that, shall we? This is the Mayan tomb. It's kind of the staging ground for those trying to access Chivalva, and it's a neat kind of level. It's got some interesting set pieces to it, and some visually interesting puzzles. Even the puzzles are fairly easy. But of course you also have a lot of zombies, and a lot of them now have swords and shields. And that's not the worst of it. But we'll see that at the end of the level. But happily this trap's proving quite useful for literally lighting them up so we can do a lot of damage with our bullets, even if it's not outright killing them. It's just doing most of their damage.
I think it's over for now.
So let's avoid the middle of this room because of all the traps. Now this door has a puzzle, of course, but we'll be doing that in a minute. We have a collectible to get first.
The greedy fool led his soldiers deeper and deeper, no matter how many it killed.
And now we're going... No, let me guess. Deeper and deeper.
I'm just taking care of these guys now, so we have to do it later. Because we've had to do traps in a corner and still have all these guys to contend with. But we get some really good weapons in this level, so the combat's not overly difficult, so that's not too bad. Especially given how many enemies we end up dealing with here at once. This level has a couple of fairly mean set pieces at times, if you don't know how to deal with them. Ones that gave me a lot of trouble first time playing. This, of course, isn't one of them. There we go, we're in the clear. Let's deal with this puzzle, shall we? Now you'll notice one of these three switches is missing its emblems. We only know what two of the emblems are. We know we need the serpents, the kissy face, and the shell thingy. And the order we're given for the first two are the serpent and I believe the conch thingy. So it's just a matter of working out which one is which. Of course the serpent's still got its relief on it. But the other two things don't actually match each other. The one on the door and the one in here. So we know that this is the one that's the third on the door. Because the second on the door, well, because this one is one we can't see on the door, which means it must be the third, the one that was worn off. So that we know that this up here, the invisible symbol, is the second symbol because it's not the third one. Simply because we know this one can't possibly be the third one because the second one looks totally different. It's a fairly simple puzzle, it's just a matter of basic logic, really. At least on normal mode, anyway. There's a little gimmick we have for this level as well, these collapsing bits of rubble, where we can take out an enemy for free, or a couple of enemies if you time it right. Which I didn't, but fine. I died a few times in this little area. Hence the cut there, because there's a lot of... there's this one particular moment coming up in a minute. Not this, but shortly after this that I kept dying on because it's kind of difficult to avoid dying here. Because as you can see we have a bit of a drop coming up with that weird flooring. This is quite tricky because it's very tight timing to get down this entire tunnel without crashing into any of these pillars and instantly getting killed. Because if you're not already pushing right there at the end, you won't make it past that last pillar.
Are you alright?
Yeah.
This is a particularly interesting puzzle fight, because as you can see here, the lights are going out, because the windows are closing. So let's try and open as many of these windows as we can real quickly, shall we? Before the enemies start encroaching properly. We'll only be able to get 2 of the windows open, but that's at least something. It gives me a couple places to funnel them through. The third switch for the windows, third window is over here, but I just kept missing it, and I was just like, you know what, screw it, let's just go for the one I have open already, because otherwise I'm going to die. Now, there seem like a lot more enemies in this particular fight than there are. I don't know quite how many there are, I didn't really count, I was too busy trying not to die. But the trick is, of course, to keep funneling them through the light. And if they start getting a little overwhelming, toss a grenade down. I actually start using grenades in this fight, yeah. Because otherwise it's easy to get very overwhelmed, and grenades have a brief flash of light, which means they do a lot of damage to undead. Because as you can see, they make them go pretty much gold pretty quickly. As you can see, we almost die a few times in this fight, but we managed to pull through. This is ridiculous, because this is a fight that normally, when I first played through the game, it killed me so much. These enemies just kept getting behind me, and I kept walking backwards with swords, and that was terrible. As you can see though, grenades are very handy to have here. Now I'm out of bullets, so now I'm stuck with these little handguns. Yeah, it's very, very easy here to get completely overwhelmed. As you can see, there's still quite a lot of them left as well. There's so many of these guys. I think there's like 20 or something like that. We end up fighting them like 10 at once. It's ridiculous. Happily though, we're nearly done with this now.
They're tenacious, I'll give them that.
That fight gave me no end of trouble the first time I played this game. I died so many times that it was ridiculous. Well, let's go over here now into this alcove from where they all came, because of course they all came out of monster closets. Because in one of the monster closets is a collectible. Let's grab that and move on, shall we? I quite like the look of this room though, with all the really bizarre looking pillars and stuff, and the unusual shapes and things like that. It's a very distinctive looking room. But that's the hardest fight in the game though, at least in my opinion. Or one of the harder fights anyway. But I do quite like the way it uses the whole light mechanic though, with making you reopen the windows so that you have something you can use against them, like a big flashlight basically. Because the one thing I quite like with this game is that it does a good job of changing things up with the undead fights, where you'll have like a different gimmick to play with, or like a trap somewhere to use to instant kill one. And it's always kind of satisfying to be able to hit them with something like that. Of course, again, as we saw, stay out the middle of the room because the ceiling crashes you otherwise. And let's just drop this ramp, shall we, by shooting these 2 sticks that are holding it up. Which, if we hadn't solved that puzzle right in the very first level, that might have acted as a kind of a mandatory tutorial for, oh, by the way, you can shoot these, so you can go back to the first level and get that thing you couldn't get before. That's how you meant to get it. So a lot of the time in these kind of games you end up going back to earlier levels with knowledge from later levels to get collectibles you missed, but I'm not missing them in this run because I'm being very careful to make sure to collect them all. Now here, we of course have to work out what symbols should be on these 2 statues, and to do that we actually have to look up. It's similar to that one level in that one puzzle in the ice levels, where the symbols were actually on the pillars behind us. All facing the particular switches. So here it's the same problem. This one has the weird kissy face guy. who of course is the last guy on the list, so let's get him out there, shall we? There we go.
Look, the ceiling.
On this side we have the elephant teapot. I know these aren't very scientific names for them, or very learned names, but I don't really know much about Mayan mythology to be able to really identify what each of these symbols are supposed to represent, or even if they're representative of anything or not was made up by the game developers. And some of them are fairly obvious, like there's a symbol at the end of the level that is very obviously Quetzalcoatl, but for the most part, they're kind of identifiable for me. This is a fairly basic puzzle, but kind of a cute one. You just need to get these big pillars by following the raising paths. And of course, if you fall, you end up having to go all the way around again, and it's a huge pain because these also form walls. But we've actually solved the puzzle now, so we can just ignore it. And get some more lore from these guys. It looks like a treasure map, but it's not. It's weird.
Almost every soldier with him. I fear all they will find is eternal damnation. The Indians are crippled with fear. They speak of two guardians protecting the passage into the land of the dead. Unkame and Bukukame. In these latitudes, twilight does not exist. The change from day to night is as quick and as absolute as the change from life to death. I, along with others, shall attempt to leave this land in the morrow. But I dare not speculate what will await us at nightfall. The jungle haunts us. May God help us all. Brother Bartolome de Cuenca.
Hunkame and Vukubkame ring a bell?
The two main death gods of the Maya.
Great.
Yeah, that looked just like a treasure map, but I think it might just be because it was the texture they used for the treasure maps. It also happens to be the texture they used for that particular letter, which is strange because I don't believe that was how it worked in the boat level with the boats, where it's like I think that was just a letter in that one. So it's a very weird artistic choice to do that, because it makes it look like you got a treasure map as well, but you haven't. I quite like this level's atmosphere with constantly hearing these like roaring zombies and stuff like that, and just not quite knowing when the shoe's gonna drop and dealing with them.
What on earth is that?
And some of them sound very inhuman as well, some of these walls. Like, it sounds... I don't mean in the usual zombie way, they sound very kind of animalistic. Like lions almost, although there are no lions in the game. Let's get a little more regen going now. This fight coming up I had some trouble with because it has a gimmick to it that actually kind of breaks if you use it fully. It's kind of a dumb gimmick, but we'll see. It's dumb because it breaks, not because the gimmick is bad. The whole idea, of course, is we're going to be beset by a load of undead, and we need to use this shaft to really light them up really quickly. But the problem is, if you complete the fight and you're still standing on this actual pad, you'll get stuck in it. At least it happens a lot of the time to me. So that's why at some point during this fight I'm going to abandon the pad and just funnel them into the tunnel area and just deal with them the hard way, because it's less easily broken than using the actual mirror, because using the mirror, of course, may end up getting me killed or getting me stuck when I've beaten the fight, and there is no checkpoint after the fight, so we can't just reload the checkpoint, because always we'll just reload before the fight. So you just have to, trust me, this is the best way to deal with this, doing this right now. Because there's still quite a lot of undead to deal with here, but at least here in this room we can kind of funnel them, so we can be a little bit tactical about how we do this. I kind of got a bit lucky here as well, though. I'm not too proud to admit that. Because that was a risky move to make, very risky. So So it turns out I didn't get them all with that grenade. There's one that survived. And unfortunately that one wasn't Evelyn.
Come with me if you want to live.
But yeah, if we'd been on that platform just at that moment, it would have got us stuck in there most likely, and that was really annoying when when I find that out. Each time I play this level, I keep forgetting that happens. I had to redo that fight a couple of times. The second time because I died during it, because the undead just kept swatting me off the mirror. It's a neat idea though for a fight, and there's a variation on it later that actually works successfully, so that's pretty fun. By later I mean in the next level, not this one. This room's kind of interesting because all of the light path treasures are in this one room and all hidden in the same way. Some of these coffins... Some of these coffins have these gold pieces to weigh the warrior's soul against, and some of them have little the Path of Light artifacts, which are interesting in this level because they're red here instead of blue. But yeah, all 6 of them are just in this room. It's a very unusual design choice, but it's distinctive at least, and it's memorable. So you always kind of remember that they're all in here. Because it's such a strange decision, it kind of sticks with you. So before we actually do the puzzle, let's just finish collecting all the things we need to collect to make sure we don't miss anything. I don't know why some of these mummies don't actually come to life. That's a very interesting thing. But it means you can do stuff like grabbing the coin directly from the body, like that one we just did, which is kind of interesting in its own right. And of course you have to make sure we find all of them, and sometimes it can be hard to remember which coffins you've actually looked in or not for the red Path of Light treasures. Of course we have one more thing to open over here. This pause is me noting down the, like ticking off the ones I picked up, just thanks, there's like 5 of them, sorry about the delay there. There's the last coin. We just need one more Path of Light treasure, which of course is in here. The last coffin. Or carbonite, or... Because they're very unusually shaped coffins, really. They're so, like, narrow. It's like they're just encased in stone instead of actually buried in a sarcophagus. They're very, like, strange models. I don't quite get that, but now we've got all the Path of Light stuff. We need to weigh a skull against those 3 coins. Grab the skull and put it in there, and then put the coins in here, which weirdly it makes you actually put the coins physically in there, which it makes you think it's going to be some kind of puzzle, like, oh, maybe we have to guess the right weight of which 3 coins to put in. But no, you just put all 3 of them in. It's just kind of, you might as well just put the coins in and have it be done with it. But of course the puzzle won't solve itself yet. We have to actually activate the actual weighing scales first. And it's fairly obvious, really, because I just, like, we picked up the skull from a lever. We need to pull that lever now that we've balanced the weights. So let's get that done, shall we?
Seems to be the luxury resort among the underworlds.
So there we go, that's that little puzzle solved. insofar as it was a puzzle and not just put the thing in the thing. I like all these kind of bodies as well laying around from Alvarez's men and things. It's a very atmospheric visual. Given a lot of levels didn't really have that. Before we go around the blades, let's go underneath them, shall we? Because of course there's a secret down here. Why wouldn't there be? These kind of secrets are really easy to find ones that are just kind of slightly off the beaten path in a way that it's obvious there's something there. Because there'd be no point in putting this area down here if there wasn't anything there. It'd just be a blank corridor with the blades and no pits. Because the blades don't knock you off, of course, they actually kill you. So the pit would have no purpose without this treasure to pick up. So let's be careful and time our way past these blades, shall we? Yeah, apparently Quartermain has really bad trigger discipline. He should not have been pointing his gun at Evelyn like that. That was very risky of him to do. This is a fairly basic trap to avoid, but it does instantly kill you, so it is best to be kind of careful with it. And the puzzle coming up can be a little bit weird if you don't get the trick. Which I'll explain when we actually get to that puzzle in a few minutes, when we go down here and pick up this treasure. Now, you will see under here this light up skull with the little eyes that glow in the dark. This statue head actually solves a purpose with this puzzle. It tells us the actual solution to it. Although it can be hard to tell that's what's happening. Because what actually happens here... And I've got up there we are.
Extraordinary.
As you can see, the wide things are worth 5, and the single spots are worth 1. So that statue just counted to 6. That means we have to basically, like with flashes, it flashed 6 times. So we need to light up a number that makes 6. Those don't count that we've already lit up, so we just need to light one of these and one of the bars. And there we are, we've solved the thing. I don't know if that's really randomized, but it's just kind of, it's just you have to learn what the counting system is. A bar is 5 and the dots are 1, and then the statue tells you what to actually input. And here's a very easily missed treasure in this little alcove over here, which is very kind of mean, really. It's a bit of a rude place to put a treasure. I quite like this room. It's a very kind of unique visual room. But it's, well, visually unique room rather, but there's nothing in it. There's no puzzles to solve or no enemies. It's just this room where the enemies have used this dynamite to blow up that door. It's visual storytelling to like show what they did here and what happened here to help you kind of piece together the situation. But it's unnecessary. But it's nice that they did that. So although you can't, it's weird that you can't pick up the dynamite for your own personal use. Let's be kind of careful not to break these zones while we kill these zombies, shall we? Last thing we want is to deal with those bloody scarabs. They're so annoying. Or whatever those bugs are supposed to be anyway. Beetles, whatever. This room's a cute puzzle. You just need to follow the right symbols here. In this case, right now we have to step on all the kissy faces. Without stepping on anything else, just the kissy faces make that the path we need to follow. And of course, as the path goes on, it gets more and more complicated with requiring a different symbol on top of the previous ones to keep going. Like this one requires 2 symbols now. The bird and the little guy with the wavy hair. So let's go from bird to that thing. Some of these symbols are kind of hard to describe, really. But there's really only one direction you can really go at any given moment that fits the pattern. So it's easy to remember which two you need because it's always the same two. But it can be easy to accidentally screw up though, if you're not careful how you're walking. Like that, I accidentally stepped on the wrong panel and it reset that part of the puzzle, but luckily it only resets from the last place you want to. It doesn't make you do the entire path again, just this little section of it. I'm just going to be a bit more careful doing it to avoid that happening again. That was hugely irritating.
Couldn't they have just
There we go, and now we have
pulled
3
on the
symbols.
tiles?
This dude, elephant, and then snake. I quite like the Indiana Jones reference as well with the Jehovah on the tiles thing, that was cute. There we go. Now we've solved the puzzle, this opens. So let's head down here to this little point of no return drop, shall we? But dropping strategically down onto these little platformy things. So I don't know how much fall damage we end up taking otherwise, it might end up killing us, and that would suck. Overall, I quite like the way the game ramps up towards the endings for these last few levels. And this particular part actually ramps things up a bit further as well. Because not only do the enemies have swords in this area, because we're dealing with the original mummies. Check the hats, we're also dealing with Spaniards. Which means they have more than just swords now. Yep, they've got guns now. The enemies have shotguns now. The zombies have guns. Not very good guns, it's the FN also, but it's something. It's a bit of an added difficulty to the already quite tricky zombies. I quite like that it escalates things by just keeping them armed in interesting ways. Like, you don't normally see zombies using guns, it's a neat kind of variation on a very common enemy type. And of course the next level after this actually has some new enemy types as well that have, again, interesting variations without being frustrating to fight. That's one thing this game never really does, it never gets just annoying to deal with the enemies. Like, there's never like a million really tough guys for no reason. There are either a million very weak guys or 1 or 2 fairly tough guys. It never overwhelms you with numbers of annoying characters, just like, it gives you time to learn them, or to maneuver around them, or to just plow through them in the case of the weaker enemies, so it's fairly tightly designed in that way. I quite like how badly swarmed you get in these tunnels as well, there's a lot of enemies here. As you can see from the entrance here, we're nearly out, so we just have to kill a few more guys. With our shotguns. Don't use the FN auto much, but that's dealt with now. I like this visual here as well, where we finally get outside.
Think that nobody has seen this view in thousands of years.
Except for Hagen and all the soldiers. Oh, and those Spanish guys probably.
Alright, alright.
I quite like that visual because it's the last time we'll see the sun, really, in this game. And it's a neat kind of visual moment to have all this time underground in the dark and very stuffy to finally get this nice vista. Although it's not much of one, it's a very basic vista, but it's a nice idea to have it break up the monotony of the visuals. Because of course now we have one more time going into a monotonous part of the visual. Well, not even monotonous, this is a kind of nice looking room. But it's still back inside.
Let's hope this thing takes us up to the surface again.
I've seen those symbols somewhere nearby.
Now this is actually a bit of a cheekily hidden secret in here. And why I actually had to cut to, because I accidentally screwed up the finding it the first time. Because of something you'll see when we're on the way back. So first what we need to do is we need to run and jump, but we screwed that jump up. But the problem with this of course is, this is fine to land on because it'll just bring it back down to us. But down here is where I accidentally landed the first time trying to get through here. And on that little ledge there's no way back up. This thing doesn't come down to greet you, like it does on the square ledges. And there's nowhere to really go. You can just kind of end up like wandering around in an area you're not really supposed to be in. And it's kind of silly really. But it kind of got me completely stuck and made me have to just throw myself into the pit so that I could actually get back to this point and do the jump properly. And this time, of course, because the jump was what I failed the first time, I decided to just drop straight onto the square ledge to avoid the little round cog ledge messing things up. Because all that ledge is really there for, that little cog, is to show how this pillar rotates, basically. It's just there to spin the pillar. We're not meant to actually stand on it ever. So now it's time to actually use our notebooks to, now we've got the secrets in the level, to work out our secret puzzles, which is of course, find the 3 symbol switches, and hit them by running up to them and pressing the buttons. Of course that's the first one over there, the elephant, so let's just rotate this now. The problem of course here is this only rotates in one direction, and it rotates really slowly, so we have to rotate this every time to get to this particular first switch, which is a little annoying. They could have given me the option to go left. I could have got here in one rotation, but they didn't. And you have to wait for the bridge to push out every time. To extend, rather. So you can't just move it immediately. You have to wait for the bridge to extend. And then it pulls the bridge back in again to move. And then you extend it again. And it's just kind of a bit of a waste of time, really. It feels like it's padding a little bit for this puzzle. Which is a shame, because it's not that bad a puzzle. It's an interesting idea. We'll go back down to take care of this serpent, and then all the way up to deal with the last thing. I could probably have dropped on there, but again with the whole rounded platforms not really working the way the normal platforms do, I didn't want to risk accidentally landing on another gear. That would have been annoying. Now what we need to do is go straight up, because we're facing the right direction. Wrong switch. There it is. Of course it's fairly obvious which one goes up and which one goes down, because it's just the same motion the switch makes when you pull it. It's just fairly sensible, and I quite like that. Here of course is the last switch. So let's take care of that, shall we? And also get a little bit confused here, because I thought I had to go back to the platform, but you don't, because this is actually the part that opens. But yeah, this isn't what moves now. We've done with this for now. What we actually need to do is recognize that the wall we just pushed has actually opened up. There we go, now I notice it. The skull actually parted when we opened it. Yeah, I died there.
Time to earn my pay.
It's hard for me to use our FN auto, is it? But now we have to deal with zombies, because now we're actually catching up to where Hagen is, because of course he got in here first, somehow. I guess then he's been disassembled the lock puzzle that got us into this area in the first place. But it makes sense, so Hagen's been here for a good amount longer than we have because of the mine debacle, which is a good reason to put the mine in there, because it wasted our time enough for Hagen to get here first and get quite far into the dungeon. And of course he'd be resetting the traps on the way in, or getting his men to reset the traps that were left outside, because he doesn't want you getting in too. You're kind of... he's done with you now. Yeah, that was a bit of a glitchy animation there. Don't really know quite what happened there. Oh dear, let's get off this grenade. Use our Federals to try and pick these guys off. With the grenade to a good measure, because I don't use them much, so it's nice to be able to actually use them every now and then. I'm not really one for grenades in games in general. Simply because I just forget to use them. Because they're inconsistent, because the enemies can just run away from them a lot of the time. Of course, I didn't die because of the fight as well. I died because I made a stupid mistake after the fight. Which I'll explain shortly when we get to the point where we made the mistake the first time. See, the Nazis aren't actually the main problem in this last part of the area. They're just a distraction. We actually have one more button to press. But it's a very particular button, and the first time through this fight, in this run, I accidentally pressed the wrong button, because I'd forgotten the puzzle. I'd forgotten that the puzzle wasn't as complicated as I thought it was, because you end up, sometimes you think you'll have to press multiple switches, like to maybe assemble an image, but no, you just need to press one switch. One switch, that's all. All it takes is one button. You just need to press the button. Just need to figure out which button it is. It's a fairly basic puzzle when you realise that. Because otherwise you just instantly die when you press the button. I have to retry this whole fight again, which is really annoying checkpointing really, because it could have checkpointed you after you'd killed all the enemies here, but it didn't. That again is nothing over there. That looks like something, but that's just a trap. A lot of these are just traps. This one's just something. But again, we'll explore that in a minute. That's the key symbol though. That's the symbol we needed. The journal will tell us that when we get to that point as well. We just need to finish these guys off first. Oh, this is only a 40-minute video, but the initial recording was 55 minutes because of all the deaths. Mostly from the sliding down the slidey part. So here we are. We need to press this button. We know that because it's the one with the picture of Quetzalcoatl, and the notebook has a picture of Quetzalcoatl, as you can see here. So let's press it, shall we, and go for the wing, get the winged serpent to show us the way forward. By which I mean raise the platform one more time. So here we are. Let's finally finish this level, shall we? A level that gave me a lot of trouble the first time through because of those gimmicky fights. So here we are, at one of the coolest levels. This is the Mayan city. We'll be seeing that next time. So I hope you join me then. Goodbye.